Welcome to another edition of Baseball for Maniacs. We just got done reacting to Eugenio to Cincinnati, but now we're gonna shift gears just a little bit here. But for all those watching and for all those who can, I'm just gonna ask you guys to all take off your hats now, as we're gonna have a bit of moment of silence here for the rest of the WBC teams that are going to get absolutely dismantled by this Team USA roster. And after this moment of silence, Owen, we're going to go over all these players that I have in front of me, and we're just going to talk about how good this team is going to be. So now let's just bow our heads real quick. Thank you. So now, back to the topic at hand. WBC time. It's right around the corner, Owen, and I don't know if you can tell, I'm gassed.
Yep. Dude, because for me, this probably will be my most enjoyable month of the year because the Phillies have been a disaster in the sense of the offseason to where Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Brad Keller, they're going to be playing their most important games in March, which sucks as a fan, but I'm just so pumped that I get to devote my energy to a cause. To where in Major League Baseball, like the fandom this offseason, it's been so toxic. It's F the Dodgers, they're ruining baseball. We need a lockout, we need a salary cap. But for a couple weeks in March, I could be fans with or friends with a Mets fan, friends with a Dodgers fan, friends with a Pirates fan, just like all that collective group because it's USA, baby. It's USA or bust. It's screw the Dominican Republic, not the place. I'm sure it's a fine place to live. Not Puerto Rico, who's probably pulling out of the tournament because they don't have their good players. It's screw Japan. It's screw Japan with everything in my might. It is USA. We have to win the WBC, and we have to show that the best players are homegrown United States players, baby.
Couldn't have said that one better myself. And honestly, I'm just looking at all the players for the rosters that I have written down. And I don't know how this team loses a game, let alone lets up a run. Just looking at some of the pitchers that we have right here. Let's go over the five that I think are going to be in the starting rotation here. Granted, we could only throw out three of these guys, and I think we'd be fine. But here
Yeah.
are the five that I think that the WBC Team USA team will roll out. The ace of this team is going to be Paul Skeens. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's the number one. But if you want to do 1A, 1B, Tarek Skubal is going to be right behind him. So that's your one and two. Those are wins right there. Now, this is the guy, the number three guy, I think could actually be the MVP of the WBC team. And that's Logan Webb. Logan Webb is going to dominate in this WBC, and he's going to get a huge contract whenever his contract is up afterwards because this is one of the more underrated arms in all of baseball, Logan Webb. And now he's going to be on an international stage showing us exactly what he can do. And then to rally it out here, Nolan McLean. And if you wanted to go out of your way to get Clay Holmes in the rotation, you can. You could go Joe Ryan. You could go Arwano and Clayton Kershaw. We have a lot of really talented arms as starters. I didn't even touch the bullpen yet.
Yeah, and it's the knock on Team USA has always been we don't have any pitching. And it makes sense because the tournament's right before spring training. Me personally, because I'm biased, like the Phillies, like when Christopher Sanchez went and it was announced he was pitching for the Dominican Republic, I wasn't happy because I don't want any of my pitchers going. But if they're not on my team, dude, screw it. Make them pitch 9 innings in a complete game. But we've always had the bats. Like the 2023 team was electric. Like we had Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, Trey Turner, WBC. Like we were stacked. But who the hell were we throwing out on the mound? Lance Lynn? Are you out of your freaking mind? And I get it. That's like the only options they have. But now this is on the same level. And this is not hyperbole. This 2026 WBC USA team is on the same level as the 90, whatever dream team, whatever year, 94, right? Or
92.
92? 92. To where like this is all your chips in. And it's just going to be so fun to not only see the stars in the lineup, but seeing Paul Skeens, the next best pitcher. He might be the best pitcher in baseball. You could say, and like you said, 1A, 1B, Tarek Skubal, but they're both on the team. So screw it, dude. You're not touching that. And then Logan Webb as your 3, and then 4, 5, because it's like, it's going to be, there's like days off in between the WBC games. So it's like, you really only have to throw out those 3. but you got Joe Ryan as your 4. And then if you want to touch on the bullpen isn't no slouch either.
Yeah, let's just go over some of the names in that. Talk about it's a guy who didn't have a great regular season, but when you look at his resume, he's a fantastic closer, and that being David Bednar.
Yep.
And then me and you always talk about great setup guys and guys who are just absolute hosses out of the bullpen. Griffin Jacks fits that to an absolute T, as well as Brad Keller. And then here's another one that I really like, a fireball and lefty that I think is going to make waves from Seattle, I believe. Gabe Spire. Like
Right.
he's gonna be really sneaky good later in the games. He's probably gonna come in sixth, seventh inning before we see guys like Mason Miller, or even like if you want to put Clay Holmes back in his closer setup role, you could do that. But yeah, Mason Miller is probably gonna be closing these games out. And when you're going from a Paul Skeens 93-mile-an-hour changeup to just like straight 104 off of Mason Miller with a slider that could wipe out literally anything. This is not fair, Owen. Like, I think they should just give us the gold.
It's if we don't win it, it's a colossal failure. It will be reminiscent of, I guess, the 2004 Olympic team basketball wise when they didn't win it and then the redemption team came in '08. But it's like the lineup, the bullpen, the starting rotation, it is so electric to where they have to win it. They simply do. And I think they're on a mission. Mark DeRosa's back. I think he's the perfect manager for this ball club. Now, I will touch on one pitcher who I really don't want to see the freaking mound unless it is like a 15-0 game against the Netherlands. Clayton Kershaw. God, love me some Clayton Kershaw. But do we have to every year in the WBC have a guy on the team just because he's on the team? Like, just enjoy retirement. If Good God, and I don't think Mark DeRosa would ever do this. If it is a close game and it's like a do or die and Clayton Kershaw's on the mound, boy, I don't care if it's the Netherlands, Japan, Dominican Republic, it is batting practice. When the Phillies played the Dodgers, we scored our most runs in the game in game 3 because Clayton Kershaw came in the game. And when I saw him strutting out of the bullpen, I was licking my chops. And what happened? He got lit up. Clayton Kershaw, one of the best to ever do it. Great ambassador for the game, but you are not touching the mound when we legit have a chance to win the WBC for the first time since 2017.
You know what's funny about it too? It's like even if this was like prime Clayton Kershaw, I still don't know how good I would feel about him being in the big game scenarios because he's a known playoff choker. I've seen it a
Yeah.
bunch in Clayton Kershaw's career.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you want to talk about the Nationals 2019, the Astros, I'll give them a pass because, well, they knew what was coming.
Beep beep beep
But yeah,
beep beep
there's
beep.
against the Diamondbacks in 23 when he was their game 1 starter, he got lit up. Great regular season pitcher, but there's certain pitchers to where the big game either makes or breaks them. Tarek Skubal and Paul Skeens are not afraid of anyone. You could put a god in the box and they'd be like, all right, here's 98 down the gut. Here's a whippet slider. You're not touching that. And the fact that there are 1-2 guys, like that alone just gives me an utmost amount of confidence in this 2026 World Baseball Classic run.
Yeah, but before I get into the 13 position players that we have here, I just wanted to touch it again on the Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal having absolute like balls of steel when it comes to pitching in these big games here. Because it's like you said, God could be in the batter's box. And you think like some of these guys are gonna be like, okay, like all the nerd analytics. Oh well, it seems like you gotta get him inside so that you know you're not gonna be scared. He's gonna look at him across the box and strike this MFer out.
Yeah.
Son of a all that stuff.
No
Just cursing out
blasphemy, but in
God.
their mindset. Yeah, they would be thinking that for sure.
So we've glazed the pitching staff. Now let's go ahead and look at this. I almost said rotation, but I guess it is a rotation of absolute guys who could honestly get MVP votes in their respective leagues whenever they're having a good year. This one guy at the catching position, I misspelled his name. I don't know how the hell I did that, but he just finished second in MVP votes in the AL. And the other guy next to him has never lost in the World Series, Cal Raleigh and Will Smith. Will Smith is 3-0 in the World Series that he's been in, all 3 with the Dodgers, obviously, but he's won every single one that he's been involved in. And what else do I need to say about Cal Raleigh besides this guy just knows how to mash and he does it from both sides of the plate?
Yeah, and the catching duo, it's elite because obviously you go Cal Raleigh, he's the starter, right? but Will Smith is probably the second best catcher in Major League Baseball, and it's not relatively close. Will Smith is one of the most underrated players in Major League Baseball simply because of the team he plays on. But that home run in Game 7 of the World
Mhm.
Series, like, Will Smith can absolutely do that for the WBC. And it's like a lot of these guys are battle tested. They've played in the playoffs to where the WBC, it depends how you feel about it, because I think for the Americans, the World Series is still the pedigree. But for the Dominican Republic, for Japan, it might mean a little bit more. So no one on this USA team is really going to be phased by the moment. They are going there to do a job to win a World Baseball Classic. I love the catching duo.
And I'm really glad you talked about big moments and then guys who are just all around their whole aura is the big moment. Because going right from catcher, I'm going to go to our first baseman, Captain America, the guy whose emotions are going to rally the entire country around Team USA. The man who will hit a home run so far in the World Baseball Classic that it will cause peace amongst this whole world. And I am talking about Bryce Harper as Team USA's first baseman. I'm going to let you speak on the impact of Bryce Harper because me not being a Phillies fan, I don't think I'd do it justice.
Absolutely. I'd love to take this full force. So, Bryce Harper, he played for USA when he was a kid, right? We've all seen the highlight tapes, him as a catcher, just him hitting moonshots with USA across his chest. And I go back to an interview he did, I believe it was with Dallas Braden during the COVID season before, when they were in that period where they weren't playing. And he was emphasizing baseball being put back into the Olympics. And he just the way he talked about it, how fired up he was. And it's just, he wasn't able to do it in 23 because he was coming off Tommy John. And that combined with Dave Dombrowski's comments of non-elite, like, I think you're going to see a version of Bryce Harper in the regular season and the WBC similar to his 2021 NL MVP form. And I get it. Bryce had a tough 4 games against the Dodgers. Bryce Harper's not afraid of the moment. And I can't wait to where it's Japan versus the United States. Bryce Harper comes up, and everyone in that stadium knows what he's going to do. You see that picture right there? Him against the Padres? He's going to do that against Japan. There's no guy I'd rather have up at the plate than Bryce Harper with a chance to win the WBC. He's built for this moment. He was the child prodigy. He was the chosen one. He hasn't really done it for Philly. Not his fault. Did a whole video on that. But now he's a chance to do it for his country. Now he has a chance to do it when not just Philadelphia is watching, but the entire United States. All eyes are on him. And he's going to relish that moment because those are the moments Bryce Harper lives for. And I'm so excited. And everyone, I've seen stuff on like WIP, love WIP, or they don't want Bryce Harper playing in the WBC. Screw it, dude. We're probably going to lose to the Dodgers anyway, to where like this is the moment. This is our time as Philadelphia Phillies fans to see not only Bryce Harper, but Kyle Schwarber, Brad Keller. Love me some Brad Keller. And I'm just so pumped up for Bryce Harper.
And now going on to what I would assume, I guess if you were to have question marks on this team, would be the second base position. But even with that said, we have two guys who are, without a shadow of a doubt, elite. One's elite with a from a hitting standpoint, that one being Ernie Clement, and then the other one being elite from a defensive and speed standpoint, and that's Bryce Terang. But I'm going to move on to the shortstops shortly, no pun intended. But just to go over these guys here, Bryce Terang was probably the best player on the Brewers this past season. That wasn't Jackson Churio. And you guys know my opinion on Jackson Churio. I don't really think he's all that. So when you have a guy like Bryce Terang kind of come out of the woodworks and be your second hand in a team that really not a lot of people expected anything from, shockingly enough. But the Brewers always do something, and now they're Freddie Peralta-less, so they're gonna have to step up in a lot of ways here. And I think Bryce Terang is gonna be one of those guys where he takes a huge leap, and I think him getting spot at bats in this WBC, because I really don't know where he would fit in lineup wise, because it's just so deep. And with the two guys that we have for the shortstop position, I don't even know whether these two guys are going to be in the starting lineup. But either way, these are two really good guys on that side of the infield.
Yeah, it just goes to the depth on this team in every area of the baseball team. Now, I'm kind of going to relay into the shortstop, like you said, Bobby Witt Jr., Gunnar Henderson. I think Bobby Witt's going to be a shortstop. I think Gunnar Henderson's going to be at second base. I think they're going to get the majority of the playing time. But the thing is, God forbid an injury happens or something happens to where one of them can't participate in the WBC. I'm completely fine if Bryce Terang slides in and plays second base. Ernie Clement, probably the weakest link on the team, but you want to talk about built for the moment. His postseason performance with the Blue Jays was unbelievable. And it's like, I'm just so pumped for this team to where anyone could be out there that's on this roster, and I'm gonna have the utmost confidence that they're gonna come through with USA across their chest.
And it didn't Ernie Clement just set the record for postseason hits too?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. That was it just World
He was.
Series hits either way.
And it's so poetically sad that that last hit that wasn't a hit because Andy Paz caught it. It would have been so poetic that Ernie Clement won the World Series for the Blue Jays, but for some reason, and I'm never one to question the baseball gods, because if you question the baseball gods, you might just put a curse on the team you love for the rest of eternity. So I'm not going to do that. But it was just like, it was weird that all the energy was going towards the Dodgers. Maybe that's something to where it's going to be reversed this year, going into the last year before the CBA. But yeah, Ernie Clement, he's built for the moment.
Yeah, Dodgers went ahead and signed Pedro Serrano too from the Guardians, so that he's going to go ahead and get that voodoo magic. That's a major league reference. If anybody was curious about that one, anybody who's seen the movie
Oh
Major
yeah.
League, you'll appreciate that one. But yeah, you already touched on the shortstops a little bit. That's probably the two best players on the team, in my opinion. But I'll touch on them again shortly because you talked about them for a second there. But I want to talk about the third baseman because I think he's the most important player on this team. Just mainly because he's a glue guy and everybody loves themselves some Alex Bregman. Now, I had Alex Bregman for like a grand total of 117 games on my beloved Boston Red Sox, and I loved every second of it. Am I going to be sad to see him in a Cubs uniform? You are damn skippy. I'm going to be sad to see him in a Cubs uniform. However, seeing him in a Team USA uniform, it's going to make me forget it just a little bit. And knowing the type of clubhouse guy that he is and knowing the type of just overall player that he is going to be the guy that's going to rally them if they just so happen to be down. If they're playing like a DR team that's hitting well, or if they're playing a Japanese team that's pitching well, then he's going to be the guy that gets them going in that dugout. He's going to rip that super big double or that single down the line that gets a runner to the corner. He's going to be the guy that gets rallies going, whether it's just him being vocal or just him doing it at the plate or even with his glove, because he's still an above average third baseman with his glove. He had a really good defensive year last year when he wasn't hurt. But either way, Bregman being the glue guy and kind of being that middle of the order guy, I have him hitting somewhere anywhere between the fifth spot and the eighth spot in this lineup, really. I don't see him going any higher than that. But yeah, he's going to be a great guy to have in that lower portion of the lineup to get them going when they need it.
Yeah. And it's like, it just goes back to the point. Like, this team is almost a perfect team because you got leaders like Bryce, you got leaders like Kyle Schwarber, you got the pitching side, but it's such a great blend of the young stars, Bobby Witt Jr., Gunnar Henderson, Paul Skeens, but then you got your set, not veterans, but like Tarek Skubal's been in the game a while. Alex Bregman has been. He's been a winner in Houston. He's been a winner everywhere he went. And then you just add him to play the hot corner, and you're pouring on a big double down the line, a big single, a nice diving play. That most certainly is going to happen in one of these games for Alex Bregman to where yeah, man. I mean, just can't speak enough to how much value he's going to provide for the team on the field and off the field with just being that guy that rallies the troops together.
And now for my favorite part of this whole team. You talked about both of these guys for a second, but the two shortstops being Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt Jr., that just doesn't seem fair. That's like one of those things where you're playing MLB The Show and they just both so happen to be free agents and you sign the both of them. Like, just putting those two guys on the same team is ridiculous in its own right. And before Bregman committed to the team, I was under the assumption that Gunnar was going to go ahead and play third for the Team USA squad. But now I'm kind of on your side of things where he's probably going to go play second base. But even then, if you're feeling Bryce Terang and Ernie Clement to the point to where you want to sit either Gunnar Henderson or Bobby Witt Jr., how insane is it to have one of those guys off of your bench ready to go in a pinch hitter or a pinch runner situation, especially Witt in a pinch running situation? Good God in heaven. Like
Yeah.
this infield This is a World Series infield. This is a gold medal infield.
Yeah, and Bobby Witt was on the team in 23, but he didn't play much because he was still that young kid. Mookie was playing, so he didn't really have a spot. But that experience he gained and the steps he took in his career afterwards, Bobby Witt Jr. is a legit superstar in this game, and I'm excited that everyone is going to see that on the big stage because we know all these guys, right? We watch Major League Baseball like it's our job, right? But the whole world. And the whole world gets to see Japan. They get to see the Dominican Republic because those teams always send their guys no matter what. Like, same with Puerto Rico, not this year because there's a lot of injuries that you can't control. But it's just so great that finally the United States is putting all their chips in. And I think it does have something to do with the lockout looming because it's like there's a real chance at 27 there's no baseball, and I think these guys want to get one last hurrah in, and it's like the older guys, this might be their last chance because it's only every 3 years, similar to like Mookie not playing now because of either injuries or just like the game has passed him talent wise. Because here's the thing, I want the WBC to be, I don't care what you've done. It's who are the best players in Major League Baseball right now. If that's a young kid, like, well, not really young kid, but a young player like Bobby Witt compared to Mookie Betts, guess what, guys? Bobby Witt is taking that position. It's time for the pedigree of the World Baseball Classic for the United States to be on the level of the Dominican Republic and Japan. And I think we're finally getting that this year.
And now, before we get to the designated hitter in Kyle Schwarber, we're going to go over the four names in this outfield. And I believe that this is probably some of the most perfectly mixed group of outfielders that I could have asked for. There's only four of them, so it's a 2-2 split. But you got two of the better young outfielders in baseball, and then you got two of the better veteran outfielders in baseball. The two young guys being Corbin Carroll and Pete Crow Armstrong, and the two veteran guys being Byron Buxton and Aaron Judge. Now, obviously, one of those guys is going to have to sit. And if it's me, this might be controversial for some, but I'm sitting Byron Buxton just due to the fact that PCA's got a better glove and a better arm. And I think Corbin Carroll is just that much faster. Aaron Judge, you can't sit Aaron Judge. But the fact that you kind of have to have this discussion about who you're going to sit, because you can make an argument to sit any of these outfielders that isn't named Aaron Judge, really. But either way,
Yeah.
you could have a really good revolving door in the outfield. And even if you wanted to get crazy and throw Schwarber in the outfield for some godforsaken reason, you could probably do that too. You're not going to, but either way.
Yeah, and it's like all these guys, well, Judge, like built for the moment, kind of, but he did have a really good postseason. But I think like Judge being the captain, I think this is going to be a chance for him to really kind of put the notion of that he's not a big game player to rest. One, he did that in 25. He had a really good postseason. But like when Trey Turner went off for the United States in 2023, me personally, I think Trey Turner isn't built for the moment just because I've seen what he's done on the stage with the Philadelphia Phillies. But I get comments all the time. It's like, what about the WBC? What about the WBC? So I think that has a chance to do the same thing for Aaron Judge to where on a national level, he can really rebuild his reputation and of being a big game player. And I think he's going to relish that opportunity. And Pete Crow Armstrong's an interesting player because his season was a tale of two halves. Great first half, but really struggled in the second half. He kind of let his emotions get the best of him. And I think when Pico Armstrong is playing his best, he's definitely built for the big moment. But you got like Kyle Schwarber, Alex Bregman, Bryce Harper, to where if there's a moment where Pete Crow Armstrong starts to like kind of feel the weight of these things, they can kind of bring him to the side and be like, dude, you're built for the moment. Go play center field. And even if Pete Crow's not hitting, he is one of the best defensive center fielders in the game. So I agree with the Byron Buxton point, but it's a four-man outfield to where it's like you can always do a rotation in the group stage games to where, you know, everyone gets to play, right? Because most likely you're going to go get past that stage. I don't think that's any question. If we lose in the group stage, there's going to be hell to pay. So you kind of see who's playing your best baseball at the time to where once you get into those elimination games, here's the thing. Who's ever playing the best baseball, they're going to be in the lineup because all of these players are great to where it's like you can't really go wrong. And then Corbin Carroll, love me some Corbin Carroll. Hate that he's a Diamondback. Hate what he did to us in National League Championship Series. But back to my point, once you put that USA on your chest, I don't care if you're a New York Met, an LA Dodger, Arizona Diamondback, a Pittsburgh Pirate, you are the guy. You are part of the brotherhood. We are all ready to support the United States. And I just love that we can all band together in this world where so much nonsense is going on, so much debate, so much like dividing. But anytime USA is involved, like in a sporting event, everyone comes together.
Yeah, I'd like to like I'm a pretty patriotic guy in like my everyday life to begin with, but when it comes to like Olympic season or WBC season, I unlock a new level of fandom for this country that I don't think that I always seem to forget that I have. And I love when that comes out of me because it's like it shows that I still have my competitive juices in me, but it also just goes to show how much love for the game that I still have, and I love seeing it for everybody to still have that love for the game. Because it's like you said, I dapped up a Yankee fan during the last WBC. Like, I don't get along with many Yankee fans. I
Yeah.
shook a Yankee fan's hand during the WBC in 23. But either way, and DHing it is going to be Kyle Schwarber. We don't even need to say anything about Kyle Schwarber. But Grant, like Cal Raleigh, Bryce Harper, Ernie Clement, Gunnar Henderson, either or, Alex Bregman, PCA, Carroll, Judge, and Schwarber. That's a lineup.
Dude, there's no holes. There's legit no holes in that lineup to where, and then just Kyle Schwarber being the guy, one of the best clubhouse leaders in baseball, combine that with Bryce Harper, Alex Bregman. I mean, there's no way this team should not win the WBC. It would be an utter failure if they don't. I think everyone knows that because the vibe is this is the year finally USA has put all their chips in. So every single guy on that roster is going to be motivated to not end up like the 2004 Olympic basketball team. This is the dream team, and it's time for them to put their pen to paper and play like it and host that World Baseball Classic trophy at the end of March.
Couldn't have really said it better myself. Because right now, in America's pastime, Japan's the giant. And we need to do everything in our power to make sure that they know that we are still the giant in baseball. To go back on more of an Olympic front thing with the basketball thing, when we beat France in their home country, there was nothing better than that. And I saw a bunch of tweets where people were just tweeting pictures of the Statue of Liberty at like literally France's Twitter page, like the country of France at their Twitter page. And it just said, "At France, make me another one." That's the type of energy I want. Especially like
Yeah.
obviously with Japan, I'm not gonna make the joke that everybody thinks I'm gonna make when it comes to Japan and the United States going up against each other. We already know. But that we can absolutely destroy every team in the WBC. There's no reason why we should have a game with Venezuela. There's no reason why we should have a game with Puerto Rico. There's no reason why we should have a game with the DR. The only team I'm worried about is Japan. And to be completely honest with you, Owen, I'm really not that worried.
No, no, this is the most confidence I've ever had in a Major League Baseball team. Well, it's not a Major League Baseball team, it's a World Baseball Classic team, but nevertheless, like, I can't see any way of them losing. Now, if they do, this is probably gonna get clipped, we're gonna look like idiots, but I think the sentiment around all baseball is this is USA's tourney to win, and there's no doubt.
No doubt at all. And like, yeah, anything could happen. It's baseball. But if for some reason Team USA loses to Israel in group play, I'll probably just like resign and start a yarn podcast or something. I'll get into knitting, and then you guys can see Knitting for Maniacs in a couple of weeks. But I think that's a pretty good spot to wrap up this preview because I want to go on the MLB app right now and watch some WBC, and I'm really upset that I have to be patient for it because I'm getting really, really impatient.
Yeah, and it's just like, I mean, if we lose, I mean, I could just focus on the fills. Like, always gonna have something to do, but that'll do it for this episode of Baseball for Maniacs. Let us know how hype you guys are about the United States. If you're a fan of the Dominican Republic, if that's where you reside, if you're a fan of Puerto Rico, Japan, let us know your thoughts as well, because I'm very excited to where, yes, this will bring the entire United States baseball community in, but you got to think baseball is a global game. So, like you said with the France situation, like it's just going to be an all-out legit war, no pun intended, and I'm just here for it. I'm super excited.
As am I. And as with that said, Owen, you be good, and I will catch you in the next one.
Later, buddy.